recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the SaveOne podcast, where we share testimonials of overcoming inner turmoil and tackle the tough topic of common mental health struggles. Our goal is to create a community of believers who support each other through camaraderie, understanding, and love by revealing the secrets we so frequently try to hide from others. You are never alone. All right, hey guys, how are y'all doing? Y'all good?
We're you were talking,
running start.
like you're talking to me or talking to all the people that'll be listening
Ready,
to this?
set, go. We're doing great.
Doing amazing.
Good.
So glad to be here.
Good. I'm excited to have you on here. So today we have our guest, Stacy Leggett. It's going to be fun. We actually grew up together. Haven't seen each other in a really long time. But
Long time.
yeah. So Stacy, I know there's going to be some stuff I'm going to miss here, but the basic background of yours is right now you are working on being a licensed therapist.
Yes.
Recovering addict.
Yes.
And obviously Christian believer.
Yes.
And so I know you have a very interesting story. I know you've dealt with a lot of stuff throughout your life, and where you've gotten to now is really, really amazing story of encouragement for other people and what taking action of getting the right help can do, as well as following Christ and where that can take you. So I'm excited. I know bits and pieces of your story, but I actually have intentionally not sat down and listened.
That's good.
To
This will be
everything.
yeah.
And I do that. A lot of people have asked me, like, do I study up on our guests? Do I have questions already set? And I actually don't. We wing this every Sunday.
I support
and
that.
I don't like knowing a whole lot about people, because I like hearing it on here so that it's genuine reaction and thoughts and all that. So,
Hearing that allows me to be honest. I was actually procrastinating on that. I thought it was something that I should have done already, and I was like, I need to get her last name. Like, I need to.
yeah.
He was like, you know what? I don't even do that. And I was like, you know what? Good. Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't. I did it on purpose too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally planned. Yeah.
I'm the king of procrastination. It's probably honestly the reason I'm still alive. Is 'cause I'm such a procrastinator. So.
That's funny. So the way I want to do today, there's so much I want to try to tackle, to be honest. So first off, I'd love to kind of get your condensed story, like mini testimony kind of deal, just so that we can kind of branch off of there. I'd love to get into, your journey through overcoming addiction, your walk with Christ, and then talk a little bit about what you're doing now as a therapist, how you're getting to help people, what that looks like. And we may have some little questions there around, what is therapy? What are we kind of talked a little bit about some stuff last week. So
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of kick
Okay.
off with your little mini testimony and
Yeah.
get to know you a little more.
It's so hard to condense it into anything mini. I
Yeah,
spoke
I know.
at something a couple weeks ago. They're like, you got 20 minutes. I said, just know I tried, because it's not. But yeah, so addiction was in my family growing up. Pearl Police came in at 8 years old and forcibly took us away from mom and stepdad. So that's really like my story. There's so much trauma, right? So trauma started at the beginning. And so I guess I always felt like something lacking in me, something different about me. Something was wrong. 2 + 2 didn't equal 4 in my world. Like, it was just really confusing. So even by the time I made it to school, I was kind of on the outside looking in at everybody else that seemed to have like a script for life, right? People just seemed like they knew what they were supposed to do next. And I was like, where to put my hands? I don't really know, So I guess rocked on through school. Drugs came onto the scene at 14. And from that point forward, but to be honest, I tell people all the time, like, my first drug of choice was validation. I really wanted people to see me in a certain light. I wanted, as much praise, respect. I wanted to stand out to people, because I guess I felt like, you know, attention was the same thing as getting love. So if I could get all the attention, then it was like I was getting loved. And I felt like I wasn't loved, right? Because mom, you know, it's very difficult to grow up in the home with somebody who is addicted to anything, you know, because you're not the focal point. It's not, how was your day? What's your favorite color? What are you learning in school? Like, that's not what we talk about. It was very, I'm in my room doing my own thing. So was dead set on getting the attention of other people, and that kind of segued into, here's some drugs. Don't you want to do some drugs? And I wanted to be hard, right? I really want to be that hardcore, like, you know. So I did. I had no fear around that stuff. The more crazy I could be, the more attention that I got, and so that's what I did. I don't know if you remember much about high school. And I was listening to your episode, and I was thinking, you know, I always thought of you as you were one of the good guys, you know. And so to hear some of that stuff, I was like, no way.
Yeah. And that's something that is really interesting, because I had some other people reach out to me. Even very close friends of mine, and they were like, dude, I had no idea you were like, everybody knew, like, oh, Jeremy's going to be getting drunk this weekend. He smoked weed this time or that, but like, people didn't know, like, I was sitting at home in my bedroom, like,
slamming
popping
some
pills,
yeah.
And drinking. And when you just said that, I haven't really thought about that, but you know, you saying your first drug of choice was validation. The whole reason that I was wanting to drink, wanting to do drugs, was because, like, it would crush me if I was left out of anything. Like, I just wanted to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be liked. I wanted the attention. And the funny part was, kind of like you said, like, from the outside looking in, a lot of people saw me as, oh, he's got this great family. He's got this perfect life. Like, he don't have any problems.
Right.
And he's popular. No, like, I felt like I didn't even belong. Like, I didn't even know where I didn't ever feel like I had really close friendships or anything. And so you saying that kind of just hit, like, yeah, validation. If I would have had that more, I wouldn't have gone to some of the stuff I did.
Right. Yeah,
So.
Exactly. And the sucky part about that is the very thing that I did to get the validation is the thing that separated me from people even more. Because, you know, it's not really cool to smoke crack in 10th grade. You know? People don't really know how to respond to that, you know. But that's, I mean, from the beginning, like 14 years old, I started smoking weed, the floodgates open. I mean, I was doing everything. I had absolutely no fear. Like, my goal in life was to try everything once. And I never thought that I would be 27 years old going back to rehab again because I could not get my life together. So that was high school for me, you know. And then I guess the big trauma, the big T, you know, was meeting Matt. You know, we got together in, I guess it was probably the end of 10th, beginning of 11th, I don't know. And we're together, you know, from that point forward, literally every day. And he was everything. You know, he was higher power. He was mom, dad. He was best friend. He was, you know, everything that drugs became for me later on. And so that relationship was absolutely tragic. Like, it was super toxic. But it was for me what I didn't feel like I got from mom, what I didn't feel like I got from the people around me. And that was acceptance. You're special. I care about you. And so I guess it was probably a couple months after we graduated high school. I graduated high school. He did not. And I really don't know how I graduated high school, because I can remember maybe a couple days in 9th grade, and from that point forward, like, I was slamming triple C's, you know, on any given night of the week, and showing up to school like not even able to, like, where am I? What's the next class? Like, people would just guide me around the school. But you know, he committed suicide right in front of me, and so when he shot himself in the left temple, and then he landed on top of me, so I had his blood all over me. You know, it was in between the little beads of my bracelet. It was in my mouth. It was in my hair. It was in my eyes. It was everywhere. And so they don't teach us that in high school. Like, how do you recover from that? And so I guess for me, I was socially using drugs, and then that happened, and my brain said, you know what helps us feel better? That's drugs. And so that was kind of when I crossed the line. And from that point forward, it was, you know, no risk was too big. No price was too high. You know, I was going to go anywhere I could, do anything I could to not take a sober breath, because the reality of what my life had become was just too much. So that's what I did. You know, I rocked on like that. I went to Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, just kind of everywhere, doing all the drugs. I became an IV meth user. That was my drug of choice. That's a whole other, like, once you stick a needle in your arm, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it really, but life, I mean, you're on a whole nother planet. Like, you are no longer in reality. Even when you haven't shot up in 48, 72 hours, your brain is so far gone. Like, I don't even know. So I was doing all the things, and then, I don't know, I think it was 2009, maybe, I had the car wreck. And so was in Florence. We were doing 75 miles an hour, 4 feet off the ground, smashed into an energy pole. And so face went into the windshield, not all the way through. So my whole face was literally ripped in half. Like from here to here was hanging off my skull. And so both my knees got crushed in that. And that would be a really good ending to the chaos, right? Like, I almost died and I got it together. I never did drugs again. Bless God, you know, but that's not, I mean, I can take a lot, you know. So that was not enough for me. But it was a point for me where I was like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's this about? What is it that matters? What do I want to pursue? And so I did want to make better choices. Like, I wanted to be a better person, but I wanted to still be able to use drugs and alcohol. So I was going to, like, you know, do the light stuff on the weekdays and then smoke the crack on the weekend. Like, that seemed feasible for me. That doesn't work. You're not just going to casually smoke crack, like, ever.
It sounds kind of responsible, though.
I thought so, too. I was like, you know, I'll just do some Adderall so I can actually work.
There you go.
Relax at nighttime with a beer and some Xanax, and then we'll save the meth and the crack for the weekends.
Well, and, like, with that, to me, obviously, so, like, my drug side stopped with pills, marijuana, and my big thing's always been alcohol. And even in recent times, but it was, like, blackout drunk.
Yeah.
Like, I would take a bottle of Jack, and I was going to drink it within an hour with the goal of let me pass out so everything cuts off. And you saying that is something that everybody does, is say, like, well, okay, I'm just going to have, like, 3 drinks.
Yeah.
I'm going to have, like, 3 drinks, because that's a better choice than chugging the whole bottle to pass out. And it's that part of us that won't fully let go. Like, we've become convinced that we have to have it. And so it's like we can decrease it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a justification. You know, it's like, look, I'm working towards it. You know, I'm doing something. Like, I'm trying. Like, I'm doing better. Like, you know, in your head you need to change, but you're not ready to make that full step. You know, I've been there. You know,
exactly,
a lot
like
of us
that.
have. You know, but just because you've made that decision to, you know, do that on the weekend, you know, that shows that, you know, you at least had it in there. You know, that thought was there, that voice was there.
Well, let me clarify. It was but a thought, because it did not. That's not what happened. I did, you know, because I was recovering in my parents' home, and so, like, background information, Daddy and stepmom long time ago were like, hey, we're enabling you. You can't come here. You can't shower here. You can't eat here. Like, you literally can't come here. So they allowed me back into the home at this point in my life, and they were trying to, like, nurse me back to health. My legs were, I mean, I was a mess. I mean, I looked really bad. Like, I've recovered very well from that, but at the time, I mean, it was bad. I had to have facial reconstruction. They had to do a skin graft on my eye. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
So, and the thing for me, what really stands out to me about that the most, like, I have like a 3-second underneath the orange glow of a street light. Like, that's all that I can remember. The story's been pieced together over the years, like, from Dad, you know, stepmom. I actually got to meet the EMTs that worked the wreck, like, in 2016. So I don't really know exactly what happened, but like, hearing the stories, it was like I had that thought of, if you would have been a millimeter, like, further into the windshield, you'd be burning in hell right now for the rest of eternity. And, like, that's like, I was like, okay, that's, you know, that's a lot. And I did not want to die. I really was not trying to kill myself. I wasn't trying to die. I just didn't want to be with myself. You know, I didn't want to sit with the emotions and the thoughts and the pain and the trauma and all of that. So I'm at the house with Dad. They're nursing me back to health. I was taking my pain pills, like, as prescribed, because they were dishing them out to me, you know. And then I just got this thought in my head one day. I was like, you know, I need to go show all of my drug dealers that, like, I'm okay. alive and well. I just need to drive by there and show them like we're cool. And I mean, of course, you know, I started doing all the things again. And so when I went back out after the car wreck, so I'm now using because of the broken relationship I felt like I had with Mom. I'm using because my boyfriend killed himself, and now I'm using because my face, and all I really had going for me ever was my appearance. Like, because when nothing going on the inside, right? So now I don't have that. And so the thing that I like to talk about when it comes to trauma, so I went through the trauma, I watched Matt kill himself, and I received a message from that. And so the message, and we all do, like you go through a trauma, you're going to receive messages about who you are, the world we live in, relationships, other people, God, all of that. And so the message that I got from that was, hey, you showed me who you really were, and I hated it so much that I killed myself to get away from you. Like that was underneath everything. Like that message, I believed that. It was like glasses. It colored my reality. Yeah. So now I don't have my appearance. So I'm using over all that. So like the level of desperation was just incredible, you know? So I go right back to what I was doing. And I mean, in trap houses. And I say that sometimes people are like, oh, like a rundown trailer. I'm like, no, a trap house. Like no running water, no electricity. Like we go there for one purpose, you know? I'm in trap houses. I'm getting guns put in my face. And I'm like, it's cool. It's fine. Like everything's fine. Because living that lifestyle was preferable to me, you know, over living a sober life where I had to feel my feelings and acknowledge that all of these things were actually my life, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing all of that. I guess it was 2000 and my timeline is sketchy because drugs are bad. So I think it was 2010, maybe the end of 2010. I had gotten to a point where, like, inside my brain, like we talk about rock bottom, and so I can lose stuff all day, right? I can lose money, I can lose all the things, because I never really had a whole lot to begin with, so I can lose stuff. That's fine with me. But it was the inside my head, like just no peace, no. I mean, like literally, like all the time. And so I had just kind of gotten to an all-time low, mentally. And so my dad one day was like, please go to rehab. And so he told me about Teen Challenge, and that was, he said, a year. I said, baby, no. a year. I'm going to be 60 when I get out. Like, there's no way. I'm never going to make it
Can
there.
we start off with a shorter stint?
Can we try just like outpatient? You know, like I don't really need to go anywhere. So he had told me about Teen Challenge, you know, a couple months back, but the year part, just absolutely not. Was not going to go to that. And as things got progressively worse and the desperation in my head, like I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to be alive. And so I called him one day and I was like, you know what, just come get me. And he came and got me. I said, I'll go. I'll go for 2 years. I'll go for 5 years. I'll wear a potato sack and get on my head 3 times a day if that's what they tell me to do, because I can't live like this anymore. Yeah. And so now, mind you, I grew up in church, right, till about kind of like your story, like 14, 15, and then I was like, okay, I'm out. So I knew about all the stories and hell and fire and brimstone and all the things, but that was so far in the back of my mind. But I had gotten to a point where I was like, you know what, if God is there, if I can just get to where God is, then maybe I can be a different person. So I go to Teen Challenge of Mississippi in Pascagoula. I did the year program. It was amazing. They're like, hey, don't you want to stay on as an emerging leader? And I was like, oh, no. I've got to get back to my life. And when I say my life, I had no job, no phone, no car, no house. Like I had literally nothing, but I got to get back to that, you know? So I, triumphantly make my way back to Pearl. I guess it was 2011 sometime. And I tried to do the sober thing. I got a job at the police department in the records department, but that's a long story. But I had an open warrant for simple assault. I don't know. It was Xanax, so it's probably valid. Something about me beating up somebody at Sonic. I don't know. I wasn't actually mentally there for that. But had an open warrant. Went to try to handle that. Ended up getting arrested. Ended up doing community service. Got a job through that. So I'm doing that. I'm got my own little spot. I'm working. Life is good. But my misconception was that bad people do drugs and good people don't. Right. Yeah. So now I'm a good person. I got my life right with Jesus. Right. So I'm not I'm never going to do that stuff again. So I didn't do a whole lot of things geared towards recovery. I did a little bit of Celebrate Recovery, but I was a leader. So I was there to help you with your problems because I ain't got no problems because we're good over here. And so there was a lot that was just still in there because, I mean, Teen Challenge is amazing and it was wonderful and it was everything I needed at that time. But I needed therapy. I need like real licensed professional therapy because I was so shut down and disassociated for so many years in there because of the trauma, like PTSD hardcore. And so I was able to acknowledge those things, but not really process those things therapeutically. So those things were still on the inside of me. Long story short, I made it about 2.5 years outside of Teen Challenge, so like 3.5-ish years sober, and then I decided I was going to drink like normal people, right? Because I was at Pine Lake. I was a member of a small group at Pine Lake, and it was a New Year's thing, man, and they were all just drinking their 1 cup of wine, and I was like, this, absolutely, like, I will join you in this, and it was fun. And it was fine the next time. And it was fine the next time. And then it was not fine. And it was every Thursday night's ladies' night. Hey, like, let's go get drunk at, the reservoir and all the things. And so I ended up right back where I started from. Got in an abusive relationship. That was fun. And so the alcohol 1,000% led me back to a box of 100 syringes in the Walgreens parking lot, saying to myself, are we really going to do this? And so here's what really what really was hard about that. You have to do a whole lot of drugs to drown out the Holy Spirit. Because I loved Jesus. And I also had a needle in my neck. And how do those two things coexist together? And it was pure torture and hell in my brain every day, all day, because I knew that there was not ever a thought in my brain that this relapse is going to probably be okay. This is fine. You're going to make it through. I was like, this is really bad, and it's going to be really bad. And it was really, really bad. So I was in a relapse for about a year and a half, and lost everything all over again, lost some teeth, I lost every single thing that I had worked really hard to gain back. And so I think I have a couple of memories from that just kind of paint a picture of how bad it really was. And the first one, so I'm a member of 12-step programs. I do that part because I need 12 steps and Jesus. I need both of those things together to allow me to stay sober one more day. And there's a part in the big book that talks about incomprehensible demoralization, right? And there's no other way to describe it than that. And so I have these memories of, being in a bathroom, stranger's bathroom, hotel bathroom, trap house bathroom with, a needle in my hand for 6 hours, not able to find a vein, like just crying and begging God to help me find a vein, because that's how bad I felt like I had to get high. So, and I would love to say that was like a, every now and then occasion, but that was all the time. Like that's where my addiction got me to. So what was the solution in the beginning, what worked effectively to separate me from my reality became the problem. It no longer worked. I couldn't get high. I couldn't find a vein. It was chaos and it was misery. So that was one memory. And then another memory that I have is I had blown out all the veins in my feet. I had blown out both veins in my arms, blown out the veins in my hands. And I got left alone at some random trailer in Byram, and I had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom was on the opposite end of the trailer. So I had to army, crawl through just filth, right? Empty food bags, just animal feces, I literally drug my body through that to get to the bathroom. And I still, even in that place, I was like, yeah, this is kind of okay. It's going to be fine. Right? Somebody's going to come through with some good drugs. We're going to escape. It's going to be great. We're going to get super high and life will be okay again. And I just existed in that place until, again, just that place in my brain of I really am not, I don't think I'm going to live through this. Now, mind you, I'm type 1 diabetic and have been since I was 12. And so my health was really, really bad. I later on in my sobriety, I've prayed to God about some of these things, and I believe that he revealed to me that I wouldn't have lived another year in that place because of how, not only was I destroying my health with crystal meth, but I wasn't taking my insulin. I wasn't that was the last thing on my mind was what's my sugar level right now. So I don't think I would have lived much longer in that place. And so I did what I always do, and I called Daddy to come to the rescue. And Daddy came to the rescue, and he said again, like, will you just go to treatment? And so I went to secular treatment. I went to a 30-day program in Hazelhurst. Knew I couldn't go back to Jackson, so did 60 days in Columbus, and just decided I'm going to stick around Columbus. And so I was there for 8-ish years. Got a job at the rehab that I went through and just fell in love with that. It's like how crazy to think that the very thing that qualifies me to help other people is all the dumb stuff that I was doing. Like, how could God repurpose that pain? But he did. And so I ended up going to college, got my bachelor's in psychology. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I kind of like this. And so I was like, we're just going to go the distance here. So I got to grad school. So I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and I did my internship back in the area. Because, like, okay, I've been gone for 8 years. I kind of miss my folks. I kind of miss home. So I did an internship here, got hired on full time, and so here I sit.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, there's so many things. Like, we really need like a 3-hour episode and just dive into all of it. But, you know, a few things that you said, like, one, what you went through qualifies you. And like I've told people that before. So I, you know, some of the stuff I battled, and obviously being a firefighter, being a cop, I've seen a lot of suicide. I've seen a lot of drugs. I've called people horrible names because of it. And I've just been like, you know, get your ass in the car and ship you off kind of deal. Now I have like a whole new perspective that I would have never had, because the other thing I didn't understand, and now I do, is, you know, alcohol, meth, weed, sex, whatever it is, addiction is addiction.
Right.
It's not about what drug you're using. That's just the fix you're trying to get to escape all the inner turmoil you're in. And so before, I was always like, oh, man, I drink every night, but I don't do drugs. Like, right. I'm not a meth head. I'm not
as bad as those people.
Exactly. Sure. And then, so I always thought, I was like, I'm doing good. Like, you know, most everybody in the world drinks, it seems like, so it's not that big a deal. And then now that I started therapy, and I'm into like month 8 of it now, I see throughout my whole life, all the way back to when we were teenagers, like, I was just trying to disguise and to hide because I didn't want to deal with what was in me. And I finally, like, there's some stuff that we're going through in therapy right now that I'm having to face, and it is not fun at all. And a thing popped up the other day, and it was a guy talking about how, you know, okay, if you have a thorn, piece of wood stuck in your leg, if you do not get that out and tend to it, it's going to get infected. And then after a little while, it's going to go septic, and then it's eventually going to kill you, and it's going to hurt the whole time. So you're not going to leave it there. You're going to get it out. But so often, people don't treat their inner emotions. And not ever, you know, I also had this idea of back then, before 8 months ago, that, yeah, I had seen stuff on the fire side that would mess with some people and the police side. But I wasn't beat as a kid. I grew up, my parents had been married 46 years. Like, I had a good life. Like, I don't have problems.
Yeah.
You know, because I would compare myself to other people, and I would almost feel bad even thinking that I'm bothered by anything, because I'd be like, I can't be, but like, I have good stuff.
Yeah.
But I was sick. Like, I was chasing money. I was chasing career success. I was angry. I was mean. All these things, but I would always compare it to, oh, I'm not this horrible person. You know, like, I literally had the picture perfect life. And so that was something that held me back a lot too, was because, like, I had the huge white house. I had the beautiful wife. I had the beautiful kids.
The American dream.
I had the big, nice $80,000 truck. I had everything. So it was like, I can't come out and say that I'm battling stuff.
Yeah.
Because I have the perfect life.
Yeah. So you said a whole lot just then. And the analogy with the thorn, I use something very similar to that, and it's a bullet, right? And we talk about how, you know, if you get shot in the foot, gangrene, you're going to lose the ability to use your foot. And so I talk about like limping my way through life, and that was kind of my heart after Mac killed himself. I was like, I want you to come close to me, but at the same time, say the hell over there, right? Yeah. So what happens to me is I'm completely alone, you know, room full of people. You know, I had all the drug dealers thought I was great, you know, but all that, you know, no amount of praise from other people, of, you know, the desire for connection, the support from other people, which I didn't have a whole lot of that. I had a family that wanted to give me support, but they didn't want me to use drugs. So I was like, peace out, you know, but nothing was going to get through to me until I was able to go back into that place and pull the bullet out, you know. Yep. But the comparison piece, I see more people check in for treatment, realize that their trauma is not as bad as other people's, or their addiction hadn't gotten as low as other people's, and then they leave because they're like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, no, like, you're not good. Like, you don't just find yourself in inpatient treatment if life's kind of okay. You know what I mean? So it's quicksand, right? It's such a slippery slope to try to look at the life, the trauma, the pain, the, you know, patterns of addiction of other people and think that, well, it's not that bad, so I'm okay. You know? So that's two very important things that you said there. Because,
like, I look back now and I think about, you know, in high school and in my testimony, I talked about, like, there was a moment in our junior year that, thank God for a certain female came into my life, or I'd have been right there with y'all. Yeah. Because I was already, like, I remember I had been to some houses in Jackson. I'd watched some guys snort. I'd watched some guys shoot, smoke, different stuff other than marijuana. And it was kind of like I was warming up. Yeah. Like, okay,
dipping your toe into
what am I going to try out of these things? And luckily, something occurred that pulled me out of all that, like cold turkey. And so then, obviously, getting on the fire department at 20, and this is where, you know, in the first responder world, alcoholism's horrible because, we know we get drug tested. We can't do drugs. But like I tell people all the time now, the worst drug in the world to me is alcohol. Still struggle with it. Still drink. You know, if I go, like the other night, I am like, if I go eat crawfish, I can have 2 or 3 beers and go home. Like, it don't bother me anymore. But I do battle every day the thought of I could escape my emotions. I could escape the things that are on a reel in my head that I can never get to stop. Things people have said, messages, images, all this stuff that I battle, I could silence them. Yeah. And I have to make a choice every day to sit with them. And you said something earlier that I actually told somebody this the other day, and they were like, yeah, I cannot relate to that at all, but you can. I told somebody, I said, until you're at the point where you are almost passed out drunk laying in your floor listening to worship music is a very interesting place to be. Yeah. like I would literally for a long time, like I would turn on worship music and I would sit there and get drunk. Yeah. Or I would listen to a sermon because it was like what you said, like I knew what I needed. And I knew the actual healer. Mm-hmm. But I did not have the strength to let go of this very easy, very quick medication. Yeah. So, and it's until you're in that place. I mean, it's the back and forth, the pull, the level of desperation that comes with that. I mean, you can't articulate that to other people. But, you know, I think about, so after I did Teen Challenge, I'm like, Jesus, you know, and then I go back to what I was doing. You know, I remember getting high with all these people, and I was like, do you know what James chapter 1? And they're like, what are you? And I'm like, we should talk. They're like, you killed my high. Like, you owe me money now. But I think about that, and that for, like, the whole time, like, I never once pretended, like, we're all okay here. I was like, this is bad, guys. Like, we're all going to die and go to hell. And they're like, we can't really hang out with you anymore. Like, this isn't fun for us. But I was always wanting to talk about God, and I was always wanting to reference back to when I was good and when I was pursuing God.
And so in that, what that tells me is that I knew where the healer was. You know, I knew what it was like to have that connection with God. And I'll tell you, the scariest moment that I've ever had in my life was not pushing a dead body off of me, right? It was not waking up in ICU wondering how the heck did I get here. You know, the scariest moment for me was after Teen Challenge, you know, relapsing and then telling myself, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. And I was in my car down there on Pearson Road, and if I went right, I was going to go to the church house. I was going to go to Celebrate Recovery. I was going to try again. If I go left, I'm going to hit the slab. I'm going to be in downtown Jackson, and I'm going to get my drugs. And without me even making the choice, I'm shooting up again. And I'm like, how did we get here? You know? But fast forward a couple of hours, I'm at a parking lot, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. And I literally tell God, what are you going to do with me? Because I don't know how to get back to you. Like, I don't know how to stop. I genuinely do not know how to stop. And so that was step one for me. I didn't know it at the time, but that was step one for me. But wanting to be a different person, like Paul, you know, here I am doing all the things I don't want to do. I literally don't want to do this, but I find myself doing those things. And so the other part to this is the biological effect that drugs and alcohol have on us, right? And the way that it rewires the brain. And I'm big on this, right? I'm passionate about this because so many times family members, you know, spouses, loved ones, kids, whatever, they're like, if you loved me, you would stop. If you loved me, you wouldn't do this. If you loved me, you would change. And the truth is that with prolonged use of any kind of chemical, our brain gets rewired. And so the pleasure pathway and the survival pathway wire together. So when I say it felt like I needed my next hit, like I needed my next breath, it really did. Because like your survival, like that part of your brain, it literally tells you, okay, you're hungry, you should eat. You're sleepy, you should sleep. You should go get water. And so when that gets replaced with do drugs, I love you. I love you. I want this relationship to continue. I want to be a part of your life. I want to make better decisions, but I physically feel like I cannot control my own body. And then I find myself doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's so hard to explain that to people that have never lived it, but that's what it's like to live the life of the addict. Except I also have, you know, all of the guilt and the shame because I know what I'm doing to you, but the drive, the compulsion within me overrides that day in, day out. And that's why I have to keep getting high because I can't sit with that, you know? Yeah. So it's a lot. It's a whole lot.
It is. And, you know, it makes me sad, honestly, that I didn't know and understand a lot of this for the last 15 years of my life because of the judgment, the way I treated people, stuff like that. And like it's changed the way I police so much.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there are some things like you made a choice.
Sure.
There's a consequence. We have to do this. But I don't look down on the people anymore because honestly, I thank God all the time. Like I was just one day away a lot of times of going down that same path. Yeah. And, like, because of the way I have an addictive personality, whether that's drugs, alcohol, work, hobbies, whatever. Like, when I decide I'm about to do this, it is full on. Like, I am all in. And so if I would have ever smoked crack or anything for the first time or shot up, I have a fear in me that, like, I would have been straight down that rabbit hole with multiple rehabs and no telling what. And because I understand now, like, I have moments right now. This week has sucked really bad for me for some reason. Like, there are some thoughts in my head around my divorce and around some stuff that, like, I just cannot escape. And I literally have sat in my apartment so many times this week and just been like, God, why will you not silence it? And I sit there and I think, I'm like, man, I know how I could silence it. And I sit there and I battle because I'm like, oh, dude, I could just, 5 minutes down the road and within an hour and a half, like, my brain will be completely quiet.
Yeah.
But I know I can't go down that road because the last time I did, it was ugly.
Yeah. Well, and that's, for me, I can do nothing, right? Yeah. If I drink 2 beers, I'm going to smoke crack. every time, right? I'm gonna go look for some other thing because the buzz is not gonna be enough for me. I'm gonna want more and more and more. So some people describe addiction as the disease of more, and that's my story, you know. And so I have to feel my feelings. And it ain't pretty in there, you know. Like when I was in college, I was in college with all these people that were a decade younger than me. Then that's a whole nother story. But it was really good for the self-esteem for sure. But we'd have a really tough day. We would all, you know, do really bad on tests, and they're like, "Okay, well, we're all gonna go get margaritas." And I'm like, "I'm gonna go home and sit in my feelings, so y'all have a good time." You know, there's nothing that I can do to disconnect from the way that I feel. But I will say that the endurance, the ability to persevere, the character, the integrity, all the things that I really wanted for myself, those things are developed in the moments where I'm forced to sit with myself, right? Because addiction is an off button. I can push the off button and I can be with myself without being with myself. But when I'm sober, here we are, you know, here we are. And so as much as I hate it in the time, like in the moments where I'm feeling the thing, I've had a tough week too, you know, and everything in every part of my life right now is a little bit chaotic, but I'm still sober. And one of the things that God does for me, I'll be in it. I'll be in the thick of it. I hate it. Don't want to be here. I want to escape, but I don't. And then slowly, kind of like waves, he brings revelation. Yep. Like he shows me, okay, and this is what I did through that. I think about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I had a whole existential crisis, right? I was in college. I was being exposed to some different things. My relationship with Jesus had become obligatory. There wasn't any passion there, and that was mostly due to my own decisions. I had compromised on some things that were important to me. And so I made the compromise, and then I was like, oh no, what do I do? Guilt, shame, fear. And I was like, just keep doing what you were doing. So I was now just going through the motions. I was showing up. I was doing the things, but the passion and intimate connection that I had with Jesus was dwindling away slowly, right? So then by the time that fire was completely out, I was like in the desert, right? I was just completely in the desert. And so I was like, you know what, God? I was mad. I was angry. I was like, you know what? How dare you let me, you know, have what I said that I wanted? And so I tested out a lot of different ideologies, a lot of different theories, a lot of different other ways of, like, you know, making my way through life as a spiritual person. And in all of those avenues, the one thing that wouldn't fit into any of those things was Jesus, right? And slowly but surely I was like, okay, maybe it's you. Maybe this is you. But, you know, I come to the end of that hating it the whole time and super confused. God, why aren't you changing this? Why aren't you answering my questions? Why aren't you making this go away? Why won't you let me feel what I want to feel? Because as a drug addict, I have often treated God as a drug. So make me feel good. And when you don't make me feel good, something must be wrong. It must be you, because it's not going to be me. And so then now I'm going to go reach for other things in my life to make me feel the way I want to feel. Tough lesson to learn. It took me several years to figure out that sometimes that's what I do to God. But through the existential crisis, like on the other side of that, I realized that through that, God was purifying my motives, because my motives can be super jacked up sometimes. And the motive that I had through some of the ministries that I was involved in Columbus, because I was all up in everything. Because if that's the drug addict that I was, then that's the type of Christian that I have to be also. So I was up in all the things, and so somewhere like skewed in that place was, it's all about my reputation, because validation is my first drug of choice, right? And so I was getting the validation, I was getting the praise, hey, come speak here, come do these things. And so on the other side of that, I realized that God was trying to purify and remove that from me. So today, I do the things that I do for one reason, and that's because I want to help pull people into the kingdom of God, right? I just want to be used by God. I don't need you to praise me. I don't need you to tell me that I'm wonderful, beautiful, all the things. I don't need to hear that. I just want to know that I'm making an impact in the lives of other people.
Man, you saying that really just pieced together something that I've seen a lot and I've always wondered about. I remember back when I was in my early 20s, I had some friends that, not going to say their names because we all know them, that went to rehabs and stuff. They got saved. And when they came out, like, man, they'd show up at parties with a Bible. You're going to hell.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they taught me. And they were just like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I've seen it recently with some people, even like when they come out, and it's that addiction. That's their new drug. That's their new drug. And it's also why in my experience, some people don't do this, some people do, but I have seen many people where they come out of a drug addiction, they get saved, and then they're so on fire for God, but it's like a firework. It goes out.
Yeah.
Because at some point they're not getting that same feel from addiction. And that's why, like, I try to be careful. Like, I even worry, like, the whole way here today I was praying. I was like, God, this is not about me. Like, because I will make it. Like, anything I do, like, I grab a hold of stuff and, like, I'm all in, you know? And so, like, that's a big fear of mine all the time is, like, I've started, and it's cool, though, because I see myself evaluating myself in a different light now. You know, like, anything I do, I'll sit there and I'll ask God, I'll be like, am I doing this for you or me?
I would say don't ever come out of that place.
Yeah. Because
when you stop taking time regularly to examine your own heart and your own motives, you will eventually end up in a place that you didn't want to be. And what I'm hearing is identity. It's about identity. And so as a drug addict, my identity, my self-esteem, it's terrible. It's trashed. And so then I grab a hold of something that the rest of the world admires. It's genuine, right? I really did. I had salvation happen. I love Jesus. I'm trying to be a better person. But through the praise of other people, I'm like, oh, they're praising me because I'm so spiritual. So I'm going to be really spiritual because they're going to praise me more because I don't have a sense of identity on my own because the world has crushed it so much. So that becomes my identity. And so in the therapy world, a term that we use is called a spiritual bypass. And so sometimes people will come in, they'll have this experience with God. Okay, me and God are good now. And instead of facing the pain, facing themselves, right, calling out the character defects, dealing with the trauma, they kind of sweep it under a spiritual rug, right? Well, I gave it to the Lord. Well, just going to give it to God. You know, I prayed through that and everything is fine. Now, don't get me wrong. Prayer, powerful weapon. Got to have it, right? I have to use prayer to be spiritually connected. But get ready for this, okay? You can actually be a Christian and get therapy. Like, you know, because it seems like people want to
100%.
separate those things. And I'm like, God gave us the gift of counseling, right? People, if you've been through trauma, you need therapy. If you've never been through trauma, you need therapy. We need therapy. And so people will sweep things under that spiritual rug. They will use a spiritual bypass to feel like things are okay and paint this picture to the rest of the world. Like, hey, I'm good now. Everything's fine. And everything is not fine.
So I've actually had people ask me, because, like, if you follow me, which I hope you do, I hope you follow me, Thomas, Stacy, all of us on social media, like, share, all that great stuff. It helps us reach more people. But it's funny what you start getting when people start looking at your stuff. You know, I've had a couple people actually ask me, they're like, because I will post, you know, Christian stuff. I will post what I'm reading in the Word. I'll post what I'm in the book. I'll also post a video maybe talking about how bad life sucks right now.
Yeah.
Like, because I try to be transparent. Transparency about my struggles keeps me humble.
Sure.
Like, if I got on TikTok every day and I read a scripture from the Bible and I talk about how great God is for 4 minutes, that's so fake. Because later that day, I'm wrestling with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I am not shy to go to God and be like, hey, bro.
Yeah.
This shit sucks.
Yes. Yes.
Like, one, nowhere in the Bible does it say shit's a bad word. But
that's a whole
nother topic. Yeah. But so, like, people, like, I will.
It's actually Deuteronomy.
Be quiet.
Calm down, Tom.
Whenever I talk to God, it's pretty cool that, like, now I've learned how to talk to God like a friend.
Yeah.
With just no inhibitions about it. Like, I will just go raw with him now.
Yeah.
And so I have some pet peeves. And you hit one a while ago when you said, I cannot stand whenever I hear Christian people who, frankly, probably have not struggled with stuff like they're talking to people who they cannot relate to. And they're saying, man, give it to God.
Yeah.
Give it to God. You're not giving it to God.
And I'm over here like, I don't know. How do I give it? Is there an address for that?
The old me's like, bro, I want to punch you in the face right now because, one, like, I don't understand that. I grew up in church. I've been super close to God at times. I've had a very up down, and I even struggle with that. Like last night, laying there praying, like I was like, God, how do I give it to you more? Mm-hmm. Like, what is the practical application when we're talking about giving it to you, surrendering fully to you? So when I hear other people telling people that are like fresh out of addiction or, you know, really in the thick of some bad stuff, man, give it to God, pray more. And it's like, well, I'll tell you, man, you need somebody to talk. He needs to talk. She needs to talk.
Yeah.
She needs to express. That's what they're wanting to do with you, and you're shutting them down.
Exactly.
By saying, give it to God. Essentially, what I hear is, I don't have time and energy and the effort to put in to sit here and talk to you for the next hour, so go give it to God.
Right. And what I hear is you're doing something wrong. Because you're telling me to give it to God. I don't know what that means. I'm like, okay, and then that's not happening for me. So I interpret that as there's something wrong with me. I'm doing something wrong. There's a disconnect there. So then I go into this weird place in my brain where I stop asking you for help, and I'm just going over here like, we'll try to figure this out or give it to God real quick, you know. But I think there are well-meaning people in the church, and I think that we come up with these like slogans, you know, that these churchy lingo phrases that we have, that when people don't know what to say, they give you that. But then as the person who really needs the help, we're like, oh, okay, thanks, cool, I'll maybe call you later, you know?
You know, I'm glad you said that, like you did, about how, you know, giving it to God was something that perplexed me, you know, for the longest time. And there's a visual that I was told that helped me grasp exactly kind of what they mean whenever they do say that. You know, it's meant, you know, from a good place. But what I've learned is the visual goes like this. Like, imagine you have something in your hand and you're bringing it to God and you're handing it to him, right? But you won't let go of it, right? And he's trying to take it from you. You got to bring it to God, but you got to let it go. And that's one of the biggest things, like I'm struggling with myself, is letting those things that you want to bring to God actually go and letting him do his way with it. Because we cling to those things, you know, like I have a responsibility. It's what it feels like to me. Like I'm bringing it to you, God, but I know I got like a 10%, you know, thing. When you got to let it go, you know, you want to bring, and speaking of that, are there any go-to like moments in your life? You're talking about how you went through Teen Challenge and you came out. Are there any like go-to moments or any times in your life that were moments that helped you, almost like epiphanies that brought you out of the place?
I'll tell you my favorite one. So through the process of Teen Challenge, one of the things that I learned was that God doesn't need me. And let me go. Okay, wow. just track with me, because the truth about God is that he is over here and he's holy and he's perfect and he's righteous and he's just and he's complete. And my best efforts and righteousness are filthy rags before him, right? So God doesn't need me, yet he created me. So what does that mean? And he created me knowing you're going to jack a whole bunch of stuff up, and then you're going to get it together for a second, and then you're going to jack it up, and then we're just kind of can do this for a few years, right? And he still allowed me to be created. So why would he do that? He doesn't need me. He just wants me.
Oh.
Blew my brain.
That's where you're
blew my brain. I was like, "What do you mean? Like, you don't mean to like do anything for you or like or like all these things?" And like, he just wants me, and that completely changed my approach to God. Because if God needs something from me and I'm a failure, then I'm not giving God what he needs. Then therefore, God has no more need for me. But if God just wants me, he wants me in whatever form that I come in, right? And some days that's really great. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a cookie cutter Christian. If you walk past my office at any random time during the day, I'm probably going to drop an F-bomb, like, because that's the way I rock. I do not have it all together at all, and my relationship with God is very much seasonal. And sometimes me and God are really, really good. Sometimes I'm going through a thing, and I drift over here to an island trying to wrestle it out on my own until I get miserable. Then I bring it back to God. I'm like, oh, okay, right. You're going to, okay, the strength, the power, all the things. I'm going to stay here. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So I do not have it all together at all as a Christian. But that revelation on its own is something that I have to come back to all the time, because the world and the devil and these weird hellfire brimstone ideologies that I've been exposed to all of my life try to trick me into thinking that if I am not perfect, God does not want me. And I know that is not true. But every now and then, that's what's going on in my heart, right? And my behavior is a reflection of that.
Man, so you're like the female version of me, apparently. But no, truthfully, you know, I'm not a cookie cutter Christian either. I cuss like a sailor, real bad habit since I was 15. I'm around it all the time. But I cuss like a sailor. I deal with a lot of sin. I have intrusive thoughts that would freak people out.
Maybe not.
You know,
maybe not. I'm just saying.
Wouldn't bother you probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I have come to learn, like one thing, like you talked about earlier, Romans, when Paul talks about, it's all the things I do or what I do not want to do. So the interesting thing is, for the last 15 years, especially the last, 10 years, like throughout my marriage, throughout becoming a father and all this stuff, like I knew every day I'm not the man I want to be. Like if you would have had me a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, write a list of all the things that make you a good man, I didn't have many of those. And so like, I always had this urge. I always had this pull in me. You can be better. You can do better. But I was so consumed with just a very, very performance-based relationships. Yeah. And I took that. I talked about it, I think, last week or I know at different times. That's how my relationship with God was also. So whether it was friendships, performance-based, work, performance-based, marriage, performance-based, all these things. I got my first dose of like realizing what true unconditional love was when I had my kids.
Yeah.
Because it don't matter what I do. It don't matter how I look. It don't matter what I wear. They have no clue how much money I have. They adore me.
Yeah.
Well, then so that was like one kind of epiphany for me was like, wow, okay. And then I also, having children really made me start seeing and understanding how God loves us. And then my breakthrough, like you said earlier, was when I got to the point, and I'm still wrestling with it right now, like I have my good moments, my bad moments, but realizing that I can sin right now, horrible sin, do whatever, a horrible sin, and then I can go hit my knees and talk to God. I used to not do that. I would run from him for weeks, months, years.
I'm still dealing with that.
Because I cannot, for the life of me, understand how he can keep forgiving me, how he can keep working with me. But it was exactly what you said. He wants me.
Yeah.
He wants me for the ugly, dirty, nasty, filthy person that I am. That's what he wants. And he, and it's like multiple things. Like he qualifies the call. I know a lot of cookie cutter Christians that I'm not passing judgment, but I'm just going to say, God have mercy on you when you meet him. Because just because you're really good at hiding all the things you struggle with and preaching down to people, it's going to be a bad day for you. I got a feeling.
Well, and I mean, think about it. Who are the people in this life that you admire? Because for me, it's not the person who's never made a mistake. And when I'm going through the thick of it, I definitely don't want to go talk to, Sally, the Sunday school teacher that's got it all together. And she might actually have it all together. Yeah. I don't know. But I know for me, the people that I look up to, the people that draw me into them the most are the people that have gone through hell on earth and are still standing. That's who I want to go to. And so that's who I want to be for the people around me. All this can't be for nothing. Yeah. It can't be for nothing. And it's not. It's not for nothing. And so for me, I think I used the phrase earlier, I'm repurposing all that pain. And so part of the responsibility of that is continuing to be real and raw and vulnerable and authentic about where I'm at in my life today. Because people don't need me to have it all together. People just need me to be real with them.
Absolutely. And so when I felt the calling to start this, and then I called Thomas and all this stuff, man, before, I would have never done anything like this. Like, this is so opposite of me, to be transparent, to be so, like, I remind myself of that all the time. I'm like, God's doing a work in you.
Right.
But also, like, I had a night, it was a few weeks after my divorce, after everything came out, and I was at my parents' house staying, and I'll never forget, I woke up completely out of breath, soaked in sweat, just, and all I could hear was being told, you have to go through all this. And I just kept saying, why? And it was, you have to understand this pain. You have to know this pain. And I think about that a lot of times because, one, like you said, if I sit down with someone and I ask them, hey, man, what do you struggle with? Oh, man, I don't really struggle with anything. I'm man, me and God are rocking it, dude. I'm so close to God. It's just amazing. I'm so blessed. I'm like, okay, cut the bullshit. What do you struggle with?
Yeah.
Because if you cannot tell me, whether it's little or big, something you're struggling with, I can't talk to you because you're not going to understand me. Like, I start vomiting out the things in my head, you're probably going to have nightmares. Like, because if you're so perfect and not struggling with anything, how can I relate to you? How can I feel comfortable with you? And so I really think, and I see it like across social media, I see it in my own world that I can see around me, I feel like God's calling more and more people up who have truly struggled, because those are the people you can relate to. One of the main things that people will reach out to me and say since we started this is, you are so authentic, you are raw, and I can actually relate to you. And I don't feel like you judge people. And that's true. I used to judge the hell out of people.
Yeah.
But I don't now. And like, one of the biggest things I talk about, I say that we don't talk about too much, but suicide. Like, I used to walk up and, hey, toss them in the body bag. Like, they're a piece of crap. They're a coward. I had no empathy toward that. I had no empathy toward addiction because I was never an addict. I never saw myself like that until my therapist crushed my world and explained and showed me.
Sounds
all
like
this.
a good therapist.
Yeah. And so now it's pretty cool. I mean, just in the past week, like, I had an opportunity while at work, I had to deal with somebody who was having a severe mental break. And, you know, a year ago, what would I have done? 5 minutes in, I would have fought them, put them in handcuffs, shipped them off.
Yeah.
I spent an hour trying to talk to this person, pouring sweat in their trailer, just because now I understand. And so for me, I had to go through everything because I truly believe God has a calling on my life now to help people. And you cannot relate to people. A drug addict does not want to talk to Sunday school Susie, because you look at them and talk about, you know, shooting up and talking to God at the same time. Or I you know, for me to have told some Bible thumper, yeah, man, I get super drunk and I listen to worship music. Like, I know what I need, but I'm battling this. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to tell somebody that. But if I know they've been there, man, I'll tell you anything.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about having to go through the hard things that we go through. I think about, I might get the scripture reference wrong, so just give me some grace, but I think it's somewhere in Philippians where Paul is talking about all the things that I once considered valuable, I count it all as trash now, you know, because, and he goes on to say that I want to be one with Christ and I want to understand his suffering. So if I am truly in the pursuit of Jesus and I really want to understand what does the cross even mean, what was the actual cost of grace, then I have to understand suffering, or it will always be something that is an idea, a thing that exists cognitively in me, and not something that I really understand in my spirit and with my heart, because that's the ultimate, you know, picture that we have of what does it mean to suffer. And even the things that I have to walk through in my life that were incredibly hard, right? Even those things do not compare to what my grace actually cost.
Well, and like taking it a step further that I recently thought about is, like I said, grew up in church, so I knew Christ was the perfect person that walked the earth. He had to be perfect because he was perfect sacrifice. I never really grasped until now, he actually understands everything because he was tempted with everything. He had to feel every temptation and he had to resist it to be perfect. So I can actually go to him now and talk to him, and whether it's about wanting to drink, whether it's sexual sin, greed, pride, anger, whatever it is, he felt every single one of those feelings. He just had the power of his Father and of the Holy Spirit to resist them, to be the perfect sacrifice. Right. I never saw him like that before. I saw him as perfect, and I'm not perfect. So until I figure out how to get perfect, me and him can't relate.
And he's over there somewhere.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's up there and he's too great to touch is what I felt. And then now that I see it and understand it as he has experienced everything I have, so I can talk to him. So same way like we were talking about a while ago, like I'm not going to sit down and have a heart-to-heart and pour out stuff I struggle with to somebody who has never struggled, who has had a relatively good life, unless they have the ability to understand and empathize that while they may have struggled with, an addiction to their job, to greed and all that, and they can relate that over to that they just as easily could have been addicted to other stuff, drugs. Their drug was money. Our drugs were alcohol and hard drugs. Like, if you can associate that well, then we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't do that.
I think sometimes too, like when I'm not in a place where I'm actually like looking for support from that person, I have also seen my authenticity and rawness be used, I think, by God to also convict some of those people that aren't being real about their struggles either. So I have to heal first. Like, I'm not going to this person because I need them to help me in this moment, but I can, because this is who I am in here, at work, everywhere I go. I mean, I'll be telling the lady at Walmart, like, last night I really wanted to shoot some dope and I didn't, and bless God. And she's like, that'll be $7.42. Thank you. But I think that, when we do get to a place where we're healed, even the little things that I can talk about with everybody who will listen, it can be used by God to maybe show them you're not really being authentic in your life, Yeah.
And that's our whole goal with what we started this. And I know, and I failed to mention this earlier, those of you who don't know, Stacy is part of Black Sheep Recovery still with John Gallagher and them. Need to check out that podcast if you haven't. But, y'all over there, I've seen enough to know, y'all's whole goal, our whole goal is to show people that actually being a Christian and going to God is being authentic and real. And that's my whole goal now. So, I used to, for 15 years, anybody that asked me, hey man, how's it going? Man, it's going great. Mm-hmm. Truth be told, I just drove down the road and thought about hitting 4 trees. Mm-hmm. My family life's falling apart. Now, like, I change it. People be like, man, how's it going? Be like, dude, today sucks.
Yeah. Not super like, great, but I'm okay.
The funny part is when they're like, oh. It's like, they're like, was expecting you to say everything was good, because that, unfortunately, we live in a world, and thanks to social media, I cannot stand social media, even though we all depend on it. It's this push and pull. I hate it. I wish I could delete every bit of it, because it's just, there's so much evil in it. But
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, like, I also hate the thing that we all sitting in this room are depending on. More than anything,
get it together, Danny.
More than anything, my hate for social media is around creating false identities, and also the effect it has on
now, Stacy, you raised a huge question that's bugging me now. And there's like a thought exercise that I fell in love with, and it was like if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? Or people that are relating to, you know, a position you might have been, a season in your life where, you know, you've made it through. What would you tell them? What motivation would you give them?
Don't do
or
it.
yourself?
First of all, don't smoke crack.
Don't smoke crack.
Can you rephrase the question?
So what advice would you give someone struggling with what you've gone through, looking back now, you know, with what you learned?
Oh, man. I guess I would say the only way to heal from it is to go through it, you know, to face what it is that's happened in your life and face it head on, because avoiding it will not make it go away. I would also say that drugs are not the answer and that, you know, you don't have to walk through this perfectly. You just have to walk through it.
That's beautiful.
I want to jump on the back end of that. Something that if I could go back, be okay with who you are and find your identity in yourself and in Christ. Because truth be told, I've always had a lot of admiration for people who were like, even if they were non-Christian, just super solid in, hey, this is who I am.
Right.
You don't like my clothes? That's fine. You don't like what I do? That's fine. I like what I do. I'm happy with who I am because I've never been that person. I've always created my identity off of other people and what I needed to be for them. And so that's something that's really been on me, is like, if I could go back, man, be happy with who you are. Like, as long as you're, you know, don't be happy with yourself if you're out doing a bunch of horrible stuff. But yeah.
There it is again, you know?
Yeah. But if, you know, be confident in who you are, be happy with who you are, and find your identity in Christ. That's the ultimate goal. Understand that you are good enough for Him, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And then the right people will be in your life, and you'll be good enough for them. Like, if I could have grasped that at a younger age, at 15, who knows what my life would have looked like. And the pain and the mental abuse I did to myself wouldn't have had to happen.
Yeah. Well, you said a phrase. You said, I created my identity. And so when I talk about identity with my clients, because we always say, I need to find out who I am and to figure out who I am. And I'm like, identity is not something that we find. Identity is something that we create. Yep. So, like, when I tell people we're sitting in a treatment center and you've been, you know, shooting up drugs for the last 10 years, it's not about who am I really. It's about who do you want to be now. Like, this is a restart button. This is a clean slate. I mean, you have chaos you got to clean up that you've been creating for the past decade, but you can create who you want to be. You want to be honest? Okay, stop telling lies. You know, You want to be a Christian? Okay, connect with Jesus. Figure out what that means. Connect with people around you. You want to be adventurous. You want to have hobbies. I mean, that's another thing that I talk about a lot. You know, being sober does not mean I don't do drugs and alcohol. For me, being sober is I don't do those things, and I have completely recreated who I am as a person, because I can't take away this big piece of my life, something that I was desperately in love with, and put nothing in its place. So it's not just about fighting through triggers and cravings. It's about finding out, what am I passionate about? What kind of hobbies do I want? You know, just all these other beautiful things that can go into the place that drugs and alcohol occupied inside my heart. But it's something I get to create, not something that I, you know, begrudgingly have to dig through and find, you know?
Yeah. Man, I like that. Yeah, because I hear people say all the time, you know, I lost myself.
Right.
It's true. You did. Like, you allowed yourself to make decisions and be something you weren't. For instance, for me, when I left the fire department in 2016 and I moved out to Texas and I took role in the business world, I did that for my family. And unfortunately, it caused a lot of bitterness. I'll never forget. I took everything related to the fire department, put it in boxes, and put it in the attic. I was trying to fit into a new reality. I was, you know, I used to laugh, like, I was dress clothes and blazers and expensive dinners and meetings with these millionaires and some of them billionaires, like in the oil and gas world. And I would always be like, God, this is not who I am. Like I had to go visit HR, I don't know how many times, because when I got out there, you can't look at people and talk to them the way you did in the fire service. And I'm like, I just don't fit in. And I had to start making myself be something that I wasn't. Yeah. And so that is the main reason why a year and a half ago I chose to come back to the police service, because I just felt like I was being somebody I wasn't. Like I wasn't who I wanted to be. I had created this identity, and I had created all this stuff that people would say, this is Jeremy, this is as we know him, but it wasn't who I wanted to be. You know, now I'm at a different place where I think I could go do kind of any career and still hold on to who I am. But at the time, I was just trying to fit in. And that's something that now that I've seen how I did it through my life, I can look at so many people and I'm like, dude, you lost who you were, and you're not being who you want to be. Like, make the choice to be who you want to be. Be happy with who you are, because that was so hard for me. Like, I'm a big people pleaser. I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to be proud of me. You know, I don't want to be put up on a stage, but there's nothing I like more than come pat me on the back and tell me I did a good job. Right. And I chased that so hard. And now I look back, I'm like, man, why? What that person's opinion of me truthfully did not matter.
So it makes me think about, because I talk about this a lot with my clients, and you know, one of the things we say in the recovery world is 1 is too many, 1,000 is never enough. I know you've heard that before. Yeah. But you can apply that also to pats on the back and praise from other people. Like, if getting validation from other people was enough to make me feel good about myself, I'd feel good about myself by now. But it's one of those things, it's like, no matter how much that I get, it does not satisfy, because I do not see myself that way, right? I do not praise myself. I am not confident in myself or accepting of who I really am. So everybody on this planet could tell me I'm amazing and wonderful and awesome, and it would still not be enough. So why do I go so hard after the validation and opinion of other people? You know?
You want me to hate on social media some more?
If you want to, you can.
Because we all judge life off of clicks and likes. If you got 5,000 followers, that ain't enough. You need 10,000. You need 20. You know,
that's right, guys. So don't forget to follow.
You can't use it twice, okay?
Good job, Thomas.
It's funny the first 5
But
times.
no, seriously, like,
glad you're here, Thomas.
I guarantee you,
somebody's got to do it.
I guarantee you, there's some statistics out there that show and can articulate all this. But we live in a world where it's all about likes from people you don't even know.
I heard somebody put
people
it like this.
That don't know you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I heard somebody put it, and it hit me so hard, and it was like, that's so true, was that they said that we compare someone else's best that we see on social media to our hot mess. Because they don't post, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they're heating up ramen noodles, you know, in the microwave, you know, saying crushing it, you know, about to eat these noodles.
Yeah.
You know,
like I said, I'm not going to post the video of me sitting there crying at night. Yeah. I'm not going that authentic. Y'all don't get excited. I'm not posting the video of me sitting there the week I don't have my kids and crying at 10 o'clock at night because I'm alone and I'm pissed off. I'm sad. I'm wanting to drink. I'm wanting, you know, all these things. I'm going to post when my mind's right and I can do something that's encouraging. Right. You know, if I started posting all that, I'd probably end up having to go to UMC again. Like, and I'm not doing that. Yeah. So, like, people would be like, oh, you're having an episode. No, I'm just upset. Yeah. Which is a whole nother topic of, like, don't treat everybody like they're completely losing it when they're just having a bad day.
Yeah. You know what you're talking about, the validation and those likes, right? Those clicks and all that. What really switched my train of thought was giving true glory to God in everything I do, right? If the glory is going to him, there's absolutely nothing that's going to me, right? Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm not going to, you know, shave and, you know, do my hair and not try to, you know, but and at the end of the day, the praise is his, right? And so that takes that whole ego out of it. It can die, it can stay, where it needs to. That self is gone because it goes to him. Everything I'm doing, like my identity shifted when I surrendered truly to God in every sense, my life, everything I do. I'm not going to make a plan that doesn't glorify him. That's the rule. And if I stick to that, all of it goes to him. And it takes away that worry. It takes away that stress and that, what are they going to think? I don't care. God likes me. He wants me. So he obviously likes what I'm working with here. So, we're just going to keep rocking with it. And, no matter what anybody thinks, man, I've been saved for like 45 minutes. You know what I mean? But I got this overflowing. And they were talking about it today in church of that living water. When it's inside you, it can't help but flow out. You know what I mean? And it's contagious.
It is, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see. And I love what you just said. You said the rule is that we never make a plan that doesn't glorify Christ.
That's right.
That's really good.
Yeah. It keeps me on track, because it's hard sometimes, should I do this? And you're weighing it back and forth, but does it glorify him? What are you doing? Jesus proved it so many times, especially when he would do things on the Sabbath, right? Like mixing clay in his fingers to heal the blind man, or picking wheat as he walked by, as his disciples ate, and they got on to him for that, and his point was, what are you doing, right? It's not what day is it. That's not the question. Are you glorifying God in your actions? So, yeah, a big shift happened when I gave it to him, man. Like they always say, right? Give it to him and give him the glory, and it does,
I was thinking about give it to God and how do I let go of something, and a key ingredient in that for me is just acceptance. Like I can acknowledge, and acknowledge is not the same as accepting, and I can accept things that I don't like, right? I can accept I have a scar on my face that I'll never be able to get rid of, right? I can accept that these things have happened to me. I can accept that I'm a drug addict. Doesn't mean I like it, but it means that I can accept it. And in order, if I ever want to let it go, like if I want to be able to release something to God, I have to stop that back and forth in my head about what could I have done differently? Well, what about this? It would be super great if this would have worked out. Like I have to just say, okay, this is what it is. I don't like it, but I accept it. And with acceptance as the foundation, I'm able to release it. I don't have to hold on to it anymore.
That was really good. That, my brain's over here, going through so much on that. And if I started talking, we'd be here another 30 minutes. So let's end on that. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
This has been awesome, and you're probably going to get a phone call to come back real soon because there's so many other things that I'm sitting here going through my mind that I want to keep talking about, but I want to save that for another day right now. So thank everybody for being here. Thank everybody for watching. Yes, I do hate social media, but please like and share and subscribe to us. And
then turn it off.
Yeah.
Y'all keep fighting the fight. Stay in it. Seriously, if you're struggling with something, reach out. If there's something you want us to tackle on this podcast, reach out. Send us a message. I will do my best to get the right person on here that can speak on that topic. So engage with us. Thank y'all, and stay in the fight and run after God.